So this one is going to be about my experiences in I'm going to make like a little series or maybe a big series, I don't know, about my experiences like in various places cuz like I've done a lot of traveling, like not a lot, but within Canada and in some places within the United States, and I've done some traveling to Europe but like hardly any. Like I just went on one class trip, and that's something. I mean, a lot of people never even leave their hometown, but I mean, like it's a class trip that I, took years ago, and that was a very interesting thing. I'm so glad I went, and I didn't like make the most of it, and I with like experiences like with other people and that because I was a very shy person in my class and everything, and for complex reasons. Like I had my reasons, but I shouldn't have. So like I should have just been myself, and I would have gotten so much like more out of it and everything. I would have just should have just been honest about who I was and everything, and just been like honest about myself and honest with people and stuff. But I wasn't there yet. I don't know. But because like I don't know. I didn't trust people because I mean I wanted to be able to, and I wanted to, and I knew that, in the back of my mind that I was going to regret not just being myself. But anyway, that's a whole other story. It's not like, the main topic of this video. So what I really want to just talk about in general is, I mean, not in general, but I want to like make a whole series of uh stuff about various places I've been and stuff, people I met and that, because like I'm bored and I need to do something, and I hope that what I talk about will help somebody, or amuse somebody or whatever. And like then I'll maybe meet other people also who are like similar to me and my husband and our friends, and grow our soul family. That well, you can't grow your soul family, but you can re-meet your soul family in every life you have, because I believe in reincarnation and all that stuff. And well, that's a whole other can of worms that I'm going to have another series about, like how we remember past lives and stuff and all that. But and you're probably, some of you are gonna think I'm nuts, and others are gonna think I'm lying, and others are gonna think. But anyway, that's for a different. It's not for this one. Like it's for a different series, but it's a different can of worms. But this can of worms is going to be about, now this particular episode is going to be about the YMCA that I lived at in 2007 when I was 19 years old. And how I got there, well, it was a complex thing. We were, it was years in the making, where my mom was said to have, gypped various landlords and stuff, not paid the rent and stuff, or not been able to. And I don't really know what the exact, situation is, so I can't judge, and I shouldn't be judging, so I'm not gonna judge because I don't know. And it's just, hearsay, whatever I say sometimes, and I have to put that disclaimer, not just as a disclaimer to cover my own ass. I mean, that's not the only reason I put disclaimers. I mean, that's not even the reason I put disclaimers, or a reason I put disclaimers. I put disclaimers because it's the right thing to do. Like, I put disclaimers because I don't want anybody to get blamed for something they might not have done or whatever, or might not have intended or whatever. So, I just, put disclaimers. So my disclaimer here is that I don't know what happened. So all I know is that, we had a few different apartments, and they were all on the same street, like across from the lake, when I was growing up, because like my mom loved, like, the place across from the lake and that, and didn't really want to be anywhere else, and was resistant even to like living anywhere else other than on that street right across from the lake in Montreal, or across from the river rather, like Lac Saint Louis they called it. But it was like, and some people called it Pooey Louie because the sewage used to go into it, and they used to not, treat the sewage before, like in the 60s, and it used to be nasty. But now it's not like that anymore, and it wasn't growing up either. It wasn't like nasty like that because they would treat the sewage by then, in that, time of, but by that time, in history or whatever. But anyway, back to the main point here is, how we got to the YMCA was, well, we lived in various apartments for years, and we like, my mom maintained, like, the ability to pay her rent in an apartment for, from the same apartment from when I was 2 to when I was 14. But then we started moving a lot, like every year, every 2 years, every, 6 months, whatever, you know after that, because like we got evicted, and and my dad was often paying the rent, and my mom was often either didn't have a job or lost her job for various reasons. Sometimes, various people's fault, or nobody's fault, or everybody's fault, or whatever. And my dad, was often paying the rent, and she was trying to guilt trip him into it, and that was not an okay thing, to guilt trip, and use your child to guilt trip somebody. That wasn't okay. I mean, I never consented to be used to guilt trip somebody, even if it was for my own good, and often it wasn't even for my own good, because she just didn't want to give me up to him, and he wouldn't have been like a horrible father for me. I would have probably been better off living with him, honestly. And he even wanted me to live with him. He asked me if I wanted to live with him, and I did, but she wouldn't have it. Like, she even quit you know, she even quit um like her second half of her course, like doing her actual like internship. And one of the reasons she cited for quitting it, like, to me was, and to herself, talking to herself and whatever, talking to my dad, was, I'm not giving you up now, she said to me. Like, I've had you for all these years. Like, she was a very possessive person, and my dad knew that. I knew that. Everybody knew that. Not everybody, but a lot of people knew that. And anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, as I always do, but, and that's just something I like to do sometimes, and that I sometimes feel I need to do, but sometimes in order to explain things. But anyway, so, she was, all this to say, she was just a very guilt-trippy person that made my dad, cough up money. Sometimes he had it, and sometimes when he didn't have money and he couldn't cough up money, she would think he was hiding money, or think he was, hoarding money, or not, or lying about the fact that he had money, when he didn't. He was working very hard, like a dog, for like, many hours a day in a factory a lot of the time. And, she was, assuming that he had extra money he didn't have. And he was living at his parents' place. He was that broke, and she assumed that because of that, maybe he was hiding money or whatever. Because, oh, you're not even paying rent. And then even when he was paying rent, sometimes she thought that he wasn't being honest about how much money he had. And, because, she would tell me stories, and I don't know if it was true or not, but about how he, when I was a baby, he would, buy a new car, buy a new motorcycle, rather than buy milk for me. And she would have to, borrow milk from the neighbor for me when I was a baby and stuff. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know what's true and what's not. I really do not know. So, like, let's just not blame anyone here. I can't, because I do not want to blame anybody for anything they didn't do, or didn't, actually weren't intending, or anything like that. Because I know what it's like to be blamed for something you didn't do. I've been blamed a lot of the time, scapegoated even, for things I didn't do, wasn't like, whatever, And, I've been scapegoated, and it's not an okay thing to, have to go through. But, but, like, anyway, all this to say, my mom lost a few apartments, couldn't pay the rent, got kicked out a few times. And, they would, like, tell us to get all our stuff out, or they would, once I think, like, they put or helped us put our stuff out or something. And then other times we just had to go or whatever. And, we did. But, like, it was like they would, like, get nasty about it, more nasty than my mom, thought was okay or whatever. And I didn't really, experience much of it, because, I wasn't the one renting the apartment, she was. And I was just living there with her, and then I was like, we moved into the apartment with my dad, like, twice, once when I was 14, once when I was 17. And then, like, stuff happened. Me and my mom moved to Brockville, Ontario for a year. Because we were in Montreal, like, on the, like, like the outside, like, of Montreal, kind of like the West Island. And then we were, like, in Brockville, Ontario for, like, less than a year, where I did grade 12. Because, like, in Quebec, it's only, like, school is only from, like, high school, like, you graduate after grade 11 rather than 12. So then if you want to do, like, and then you can go directly to, well, you go to college for, like, 3 years. It's called Cégep, and it's free, like, in, like, public cégeps are free in Quebec. But you can also just go to a different province, take grade 12 and go directly to university, or, just, take grade 12 and go to, like, a college or whatever, in a different province. But, like, so it really depends on what you want to do. So I took grade 12 in Ontario, and I was kind of toying with the idea of joining the armed forces. And some of you will laugh at that, and some of you will be like, well, you should have done that. And then others will be like, what the fuck? Like, you have, like, the opposite opinion of, the armed forces, where, like, how the hell would you want to, have ever wanted, had different opinions, whatever, but that's another story. But, and then other times I just, wanted to just have a menial job, just doing, something like just, and just having other, another, volunteering on the internet, just basically helping people psychologically or whatever. And I wanted to do that and just have a menial day job where I was just like, who cares, McDonald's, whatever, just to be able to, afford to start a website where I'm helping people psychologically and helping people like also like and debating online, and I wanted to like be a filmmaker and just make my own independent films and stuff like that. So I was kind of like about controversial topics. I wanted to change the world like we all do when we're that age, and some of us anyway. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do really, but and my so I was just, well, the whole thing with like me keeping on quitting school and coming back to school, and that's a different story for a different time. But you know that has nothing really to do with how we ended up at the YMCA. But mm, but we lived in like Brockville, Ontario, and my mom was so scared for some reason that she was going to end up on the news and arrested, like on the news in handcuffs. Like she was really scared that that was going to happen to her. Like I don't know why, because she wasn't like breaking the law or anything. I mean, she like thought, oh well, maybe I should declare bankruptcy, and then she couldn't afford to pay the $700 at the time that she would have had to pay to declare bankruptcy, and there was a bit of that, and I don't know exactly what was going on, but and then she was scared that she would be on the news and in handcuffs, and because we were staying at a rooming house, and then for some reason I don't know if she paid the rent or not. She claimed she did. Then there was iffy claims that she didn't, and the landlord locked us out of our room at one point, and pretended that it was an accident, pretended that she didn't know how the door locked itself magically somehow, and I don't know how that, even, what game she was playing, or what was happening even, or whose fault it was, or whatever, or if it was anyone's really, both in a philosophical, overall sense, and just in a, literal kind of down to earth more sense, kind of, you know what I mean? But, and then we ended up, in a different house, and after staying for a while with an old man who tried to, get my mom to sleep with him and stuff, but she didn't want to, but then, and then, like, we were getting kicked out of the other house that, we lived in after, that was from the same landlord as the rooming house had been. Because she had made some sort of deal, because she had been able to pay finally. Because I think my dad sent her some money or something. And then she finally did get a job for a while, like, on the computer, but then she lost it or something. And because, well, she did lose it, or quit it or something, but I think she lost it. And then she was depressed. I know she was really depressed, and projecting her depression onto me and all that crap, and you know how it goes. But then we went back to Montreal after a year, and we were staying in like a rooming house there that this lady ran privately in her house, in Lachine, which is a suburb of the West Island of Montreal. And it was like this old kind of house with disgusting floorboards, with like disgusting spaces between it, with dust in it and everything, and you needed a vacuum cleaner or else it was just dirty, and we didn't have a vacuum cleaner. But like we had our own private room, but it was nasty. It would have been nasty if the whole house was like I mean, she got like the lady that ran the house got like a maid to kind of clean up and stuff, but like in the house and stuff, so it wasn't that nasty, but like I still found it nasty anyway. That was beside the point. But I was going nuts because there was like three of us staying in this tiny little room, and the other two guys, one of them like was just nasty and refused to flush the toilet and stuff like that, and then the other one was just a persnickety little bitch who and he would just act like like we were trying to make his life miserable on purpose by forgetting our clothes in the washer and just needing to like a bit of time to like transfer them to the dryer, or somebody else like just or like when I forgot to take the hair out of the drain after taking a shower, and then I didn't realize that the bathtub hadn't drained, and then he thought I was doing this on purpose, trying to play games with him. And then other times he yelled at me that I was fucking nuts, and he was gonna get me kicked out of there, just out of something that was none of his business, why I was just putting stuff in the fridge just to store it temporarily that wasn't food, but that like where else could I put it, kind of thing. And he thought I was nuts because of it, and that's another story. But anyway, yeah, he was just a very trying to be pretend to be a decent person, but he was just a really no life kind of person, and then like we ended up finally getting an apartment down the street from there. And then we lost that one, or actually we didn't lose it, because my dad was the one paying the rent, so he always paid it. He had a factory job by then, he had got one, because he had been like working a very good job in like British Columbia for a year after leaving Montreal. Like he went to BC when we went to Brockville, and then my mom was making up these, I mean, sometimes she believed it. I'm sure that she was dying of cancer, which she said, about literally like hundreds of times when she wasn't. Where she's like, said, oh, I'm dying of this, I'm dying of that, but it was always the worst kind of like whatever part of the body the cancer was today, and literally she's gone through about 14 different, types where she thought she had it. She was sure she had it, and then how dare we think she didn't have that particular cancer and that she wasn't absolutely dying of it and deserved to have her MRI before everybody else because she's more dying than the people who are actually dying. And maybe that's not her fault because maybe she didn't know. Maybe she really thought she was dying, in which case it's a psychosis for like caused by psychological problems that, from trauma, whatever, but I mean, she did like, have trauma and stuff. But anyway, but like, back to like all that where like my dad thought, oh, maybe she is dying because she did have some, medical problems that she saw about, and they did, give her some like injections for pain and stuff. So he thought maybe there's something to it. So he came, kind of not speeding because he would never do that. Like he's too good a driver, too responsible a driver to do that. So he would, he was just like driving in the dark and like he hit a moose like in his van, and then his van tumbled down the ravine, and he wasn't harmed at all. He was wearing his seatbelt. He like barely had a scratch, but like two of his cats ran. He had 4 cats. 2 of them ran off into the woods, never seen again. A bear probably got to them, whatever, and he was just tortured over that. Because he loved those cats, and he still does. He's still tortured over them, I think. Because he's sure that they died, that they were eaten by a bear or something. And then the other one ran up a tree, and finally he got that one down. And then the other one just stayed with him, but like. He slept in the woods for days, hoping those cats would come back. He came back to, sleep in the woods, hoping those cats would come back, because like the police and the medics did come when he, rolled down the ravine. But like then, like, they assessed the situation, and they, told him that they would, tell him if the cats, came, if they saw the cats or anything. And, then they drove him to a motel, and, he went there and with his 2 cats, and the other 2 he never found. And, anyway, he then had to like, call his brother to get money for a new van and, to buy a new van and, drive the rest of the way, to be with us. And he kind of blamed my mom for that. 'Cause like, she's telling me, she was telling me she was dying. She wasn't. And then I, lost my cats and all that, because of that, but like, I mean, how could she know that would happen? But, they were they blame each other for all kinds of things sometimes. And that's a human thing, it's just not a nice thing, but it's a human thing. But and then like anyway, so we're like, the 3 of us now in Montreal, and he has a factory job instead of his good job, in like at the shipyards in like BC. And then anyway, then he like and me, like I'm still like the one of the loser sons in Death of a Salesman. Like I'm just like no job, just like looking for something. I finally got one at Provigo, and like, I got let go after 3 days partially because I did a shitty job, and partially because I wasn't needed, because like it was like the Christmas crush was over, so they let me go. And I'm not sure exactly what it was more of, whether it was more of I was laid off or more of I was fired. But it was a bit of both. And I didn't even want to ask for my check. I felt like I didn't deserve it. My mom kind of made me call and ask for it, and I was like apologizing for asking for it. And I did that a few times with a few jobs, but like, and like, I finally, went to like, we had that, we got the apartment, and then, I had decided, okay, maybe I will join the armed forces. So I, and I thought, okay, well, I need some references, and, and so and I thought, well, why, and actually I think it was my dad's idea or somebody's idea, I don't know who, to, maybe my mom's idea, I don't know, or maybe even partially my idea. And my dad's like father had, died at the Veterans Hospital, like where he had been the last days of his life. Like, he's a veteran of World War II, and he was like in the Navy, and he like died in the Veterans Hospital like in 2000 when I was 12, and well, why don't I volunteer there and get my reference from there? And that was actually a really good idea. Like I was really excited about volunteering there, and I did, and all the old guys like well, they liked me, and I think that and there was like this lady working there that was kind of jealous, and that they liked the younger women who were, volunteering there, and that me and this 15-year-old girl who was volunteering from a high school, and we were kind of friends there, and we were like, really liked by the veterans and everything, and they would be buying us like, soft drinks and like booze and stuff, even, just a little bit, not a lot, just like on the like the nights in the auditorium where we volunteered, where there was like a band playing and everything, and we would just be volunteering, like setting out like food and talking to them and dancing with them, and setting the tables, and setting up the tables, and cleaning up, and stuff like that, bringing people upstairs like in wheelchairs and stuff, and bringing them downstairs and stuff like that. And some of the guys, I would go up to their rooms, if I wouldn't do anything with them because I wasn't interested, I wasn't like the type that really wanted to, I mean, maybe I would have done something sexual with them if they wanted to, just because I mean, like, not as a romantic thing, but just to, like, because why not, and I wouldn't have been like, a prostitute charging for it or anything like that. Like, I would have just done it for free. I don't know. Maybe I would have. Maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe I just wouldn't have wanted to. Maybe I just wouldn't have felt comfortable doing that. Or maybe I would have. It depends on who. But I didn't. I didn't do it. But like, maybe I would have if it was the right person. I can't even like tell like about myself, because maybe I would have, just because, well, they need someone to do it with. Their wives are dead, a lot of them, and they don't really have anybody else to do it with, And but anyway, they didn't. It was like against protocol for us to go upstairs with them for some reason. And so, like, they kind of got mad at me for going upstairs with them, like, after being told not to. But I went upstairs just to talk, not anything else. And and then, I didn't get thrown out or anything. I just stopped going because of complex reasons, my own reasons, my own psychological reasons, where, and like, practical reasons, where I was planning some weird stuff, a bit of, not a psychotic break or anything like that, but like just a delusional kind of thing, maybe it was a psychosis, I don't know. And I am bipolar, and it was maybe a little bit of a mania, but it's always for a reason, and people need to stop thinking it's pathological, like, because people's mania, people's depression, it's for a reason. I mean, people do it for reasons, direct reasons and indirect reasons, but they do it for reasons too, regardless, and it's direct and indirect each time. And people need to ask why, and people don't ask why, and that's dehumanizing. And but I wasn't diagnosed with like bipolar or anything back then. I wasn't diagnosed back then, and I didn't think I was bipolar. I thought I'm just depressed, but like, I wasn't gonna get psychological help for various reasons, because that might put a cramp in what I was trying to do, and that might also just and it had nothing to do with anything normal I was trying to do. Like, I was trying to like subvert the system by like, circumvent the system by, I thought I could do shortcuts, and I had this spiritual kind of, but very simple, I don't know, theory I have that I wanted to show the world, and, thought that I could do that, by emailing every, politician and doctor and lawyer and teacher, all the intelligentsia, every celebrity and activist and business and, business person, and everybody important in the world, in the English speaking world. I was getting all the emails, and I was kind of manic about that. I didn't have my own, computer. We didn't have like our own internet for a while, but like, I went to the employment center and was taking down all these emails, and I was a little bit manic, and it's not that like, something that people should have to be, ashamed of or anything. It's just, it wasn't, it was a maladaptive thing, but like, what was, I didn't know that it was maladaptive enough to, stop it. So like, or to think that it's, a useless thing to do, for whatever I'm planning to do or trying to do or trying to think or trying to believe or trying to make others believe. But I was just like, I couldn't stop, because I was fed up with stopping and thinking. I had done too much stopping and thinking, and I just wanted to act for some reason, like for a change. I just wanted to do some action for a change and not stop and think about everything, because I was fed up. I was like understimulated. I needed some stimulation, and that was part of it. And another part of it was just I needed, I was fed up with the system, the way people had, treated me, for a big chunk of my life, especially for the last few years. And it was like, and I was very like skeptical of the mainstream kind of in society. And that was why I chose not to join the armed forces, ultimately. And then I thought maybe I should, maybe I should give it a chance, but then I decided not to again. But like, and I had a psychologist later that told me, he had political reservations too, and he kind of convinced me not to, and because he was a political person, even though he tried not to be, but by not being political, he was political in his own way, and he did have, political views, and it was obvious, and he admitted it and everything. But anyway, that was later in Edmonton. Mm, but back, now here, I mean, not now, but I mean, like in 2007 in Montreal, like there was some, stuff I was doing, and there's a statute of limitations. I'm not going to get into it, but there's a statute of limitations, so I can't be, gotten for it, but I'm still not going to mention it right now. That's a different story. But um, anyway, it was ridiculous. It was disgusting. I know it was disgusting. It was awful. It was like, something that I would get my fingers broken for in certain situations, because it was that disgusting and immoral. And it was something that people would want to, like, murder me for, but that I didn't, do anything that, was that bad. But you know what I mean? It's something that's just a disgusting thing to do to people. And it wasn't anything, that, threatened anybody's physical integrity, but it was just a disgusting thing to do. And it was like, I was doing it for, not my own aim, but I thought that I was like doing it to like ultimately save the world, to ultimately, like, get money to um uh like to be able to do what I had to do in order to save the world. So it was complex, and I was complex, but and my actions were complex and for complex reasons. But never mind right now. I'm not never mind, but just that's a different kind of worms that I'll get into in a different episode here. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they could still get me for it. I don't know, but I don't think so, because there's a statute of limitations that, and it's over that now, way over that. But um, I don't know. But mm, but anyway, like it's like like anyway, it was interesting that um I mean, I was like a conflicted person, but at the same time, I was very focused about it all. And but that's not even, what led us to the YMCA. But it's an important part of it, because it's like, where else were we gonna go? We couldn't stay in Montreal. It was like kind of like that's it for Montreal. After I kind of told my parents what, like, what was going on, because they were kind of pushing me to. And it was complex and that, and they didn't like tell on me or anything. But like, there's a statute of limitations, and if anybody goes after anybody, that I told back then as though they were supposed to tell on me or something, that's disgusting. Don't do that. And like, I don't want to be like, because I mean, for their sake, I don't want to be like, oh, don't, make me, you know don't make me, I don't, not suffer, but don't make me, pay for whatever. But when you go after other people like that, when they don't know what to do, I mean, what are they supposed to do? And but anyway, um mm, but it's like, I mean, it wasn't something that, anyway, forget it. It's like, I'll explain it later. But like, when um like we finally were just like, well, my parents were just like, that's it for Montreal, like, you've got to go, and and because like at first we were talking about kind of, because my dad has had some relatives in like Winnipeg, and like we were thinking of going there. And I think that my dad didn't really want me to go there in the end, because like he thought that I would do some funny stuff there and kind of get his relatives in trouble, maybe, who knows. So and he even told me no funny stuff when me and my mom went to Edmonton, because, oh, Boomtime Edmonton, there's jobs there and everything, and we could both get jobs there, and then I can join the armed forces once I get a reference from one of the jobs or something, or from volunteering or something, or I could finally make up that course that, like, because I was missing a one elective from grade 12. Like, I had everything else. I even had the math that I had to do 3 times because I was so horrible at it and failed it. I kept dropping out too and all that. But I finally did the math, barely passed, but passed. And like the third time, and then like grade 11 math the third time. I finally passed, and that's what you need to pass high school in Canada, just grade 11 math. Thankfully, you don't need grade 12 math to pass, like, to get your diploma. Otherwise, like, I would never be able to, like forget it. Maybe I don't have enough, like, I don't know, belief in myself, but like, it's not something that, like, is something that I would, have found easy back then, because, like, it's like, how could I concentrate? I think I had like undiagnosed ADHD, and like, I still, like, I haven't been, I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until last year, and that was just last year. This was in 2007 that I had the most problems with that, and where it was coming out most anyway. But anyway, then, but anyway, then, like, um we were in like Edmonton, and then we were supposed to get like a room. We were supposed to, because my mom's sister actually, now she was always, my mom's sister and my mom's brother, they were always like donating, basically donating stuff to us. Because, like, my mom was always not asking for food, not, sometimes she was, sometimes she wasn't, but like, she was kind of like one of those people that would guilt and shame people into helping her. And, so she was like, they would be bringing everything over. Like my mom's siblings, like who lived in Montreal too, they would be bringing everything over. They'd be bringing, they'd be bringing everything from food. They'd be bringing their whole like pantry over, and then they'd be bringing toilet paper. They'd be bringing, laundry soap. They'd be bringing dish soap. They'd be bringing everything, and like, and then we go to food banks sometimes, but they wouldn't always, like give us anything because we weren't always eligible because we weren't on welfare. And I mean, I would have gone on welfare, but I wasn't eligible because like, I had recently worked, like, even if it's just for 3 days, and it was just like, also, like, I was planning on, like, other stuff, so, like, why even bother, and, but, and then, like, it's like, if you're a student or have recently been a student, then your parents have to, pay your way, but then, like, if they're poor, then what did they do, and what do you do? And what are you supposed to do? Move to another province, and that's what we did. And and then like and that was like 2007. So I don't know how things are now, but like in 2007, so we moved to Edmonton. My mom's sister paid like for our plane ticket to Edmonton, and then like we were supposed to get a room. There was this woman who had like offered us a room, but then that woman bailed at the last moment, and she's like, "Yeah, I want to go out. You can't even stay here for one night. I need to go out." Like, she just wanted to go out and have fun. 24-year-old girl, she just wanted to go out and have fun. So she just like drove us to, or like actually we had to get a taxi to. She wouldn't even drive us to like the hostel. She drove us to her place, and then she told us that we couldn't stay. So then like, and at first she was like, someone who wouldn't even like, couldn't even be contacted. I think she just wanted to ditch us because she was embarrassed about having to explain that um like that, like she couldn't or wouldn't take us anymore. So anyway, I don't judge because it could have been for any reason. Like, why should she have to tell us her business? Maybe something happened. But anyway, but anyway, then so we took a taxi to the Go Backpackers Hostel, which was like on Jasper Avenue. It was at the old Marriott Hotel, but they had turned it into the hostel. And there were a lot of interesting women at the hostel in our like room. There was like one who had been threatened to be evicted, not evicted, but who had been threatened to be deported back to Italy or actually back to a South American country, but she was Italian, by McDonald's, her like employer at McDonald's. Like, they don't even have the right to like get someone deported or deport someone, but they were trying to pull a fast one on her, threatening making her do something, whatever. And then there was another one. There was a woman whose parents were trying to force her to marry, and she had to run off. And then there was another one who like, this one was a Muslim girl, and then there was another one, an Asian girl from Korea who was just traveling through, having fun. But she told a horrible story that just got me about her brother back in Korea. I don't know if it was North or South Korea, but I think it was South Korea. Because in North Korea, you're not even allowed out of the country a lot of the time. It's like too communist, like in that way, where they won't even let you out of the country. So I think it was South Korea she was from. And like, her parents were really fancy rich people, and then they wouldn't let her brother even like go back to school or anything. They were discouraging him and everything, like telling him, yeah, but you can't, just because he's learning disabled, just because he has a learning disability, he shouldn't even be like trying. And and he was believing them, so he never like did anything. And that was like a really some people called it sad, but I called it infuriating, the way they were discouraging him like that. But like, and that just made me so angry. But like, I couldn't really express it, didn't really want to even express it. And I had my own issues besides, and then I fell into this depression just because everything that I had been trying to do in Montreal had fallen apart, and like, was just for nothing. Like, now what do I do? And it was also like, what do I do to explain my theory? And then I started thinking, oh my god, because my theory means that I'm dying and going to hell, my spiritual theory or whatever, that I'm just gonna die and be locked in a black box, like, in my head, because that's the only way. Because it was a simple theory about, souls, being conscious forever, but, that doesn't mean necessarily that they're, going to be saved, or, that was the theory I had back then. It's not the theory I have now, but I'll explain it in a different, episode. But it was depressing that, it ended up like biting me in the ass, where like, yeah, I thought it up and it was better than having nothing at all. Where I was like, at first I was just thinking you just went nowhere and nothing happened, but how can you just disappear and be nothing? And then I realized that, and that made me so happy. But then I thought, I didn't go far enough where I was like, yeah, like, oh, not only, are the dead, still conscious, but it's not possible to lock a supreme being in a, container, like as one person told me. But I didn't believe that back then. I didn't understand how it worked, and now I do. And, that's a whole other can of worms, the spiritual stuff to explain it in that, but what I believe in and everything. But back then I didn't believe in what I do now. So, it was like I was depressed about it. I was scared about it. I tried to God and Jesus it all away, but I couldn't. And I tried to say yeah, 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 and then I made myself a little bit manic and happy and everything about it. But then I just like got so depressed, it just down I went, and I couldn't control it. I just couldn't even move barely. And then I finally did, and I just told my mom and whoever else was in the room. Um, what we were what I was thinking, and like who we were, just and then one of the other women, the one whose McDonald's had threatened to like have like thrown back in her own country, her old country or whatever, like she told us, yeah, oh, yeah, I was confused that way too when I was your age and everything. And then my mom said no, it's not that, because she was a very pathologizing person that dehumanizes sometimes and doesn't realize that people like who are nuts like are still people who have reasons for it, that are very emotional and very spiritual and very very social and very you know um logical and very intellectual and very human. And she's lost touch of that for whatever reason, and or reasons and whatever, but I don't know why. And like I can't even like I have my own issues. I can't be analyzing somebody else's issues like that all the time. But mm, but all I know is that it's human reasons why, because I'm not going to dehumanize even somebody that dehumanized me. But anyway, then we were talking about it, and my mom did make me feel better. I mean, she's just like, that theory shouldn't matter, because you can override it somehow, mind over matter, whatever. But I didn't really. I mean, I believed it, but didn't, and all that, because matter over mind matters too. But and that's actually not a weakness to think that matter over mind, is a thing too, because it's actually when you work with, the idea that the laws of physics exist, that's actually a powerful thing. It gives you power. And I realize this now, but I kind of was unbalanced about it before, wondering which one to, what to do about it all. And wasn't it magical thinking to think mind over matter, and matter over mind was just depressing though, and all that. But mm, and then but then like and then I was just really depressed and everything, to the point where I was just felt so cold and I was shaking. And like I felt like if I didn't get kind of like constant stimulation, not just as a distraction, but literally I needed like physical stimulation in order to not like fall into this depression. And I thought that I would just drop dead, because I would be trapped in my head and not able to like even survive, and I would just drop dead. That was my delusion, or maybe even real, I don't know. But I don't know really even how it worked, but that's what I believed. And so like I just thought that that was what was going to happen if I didn't constantly get stimulation. Looking into light, and like I liked sound, I needed movement, I needed lights. And I mean, I even lost weight that way. I mean, that was the least lazy I've ever been in my life. And I know it's pathetic, because like but and it's what a way to like not be lazy anymore. But I mean, it worked for that. But what a way to do it, what a reason to do it. But like and that's how I became pretty much like almost skinny, whereas before I was kind of chubby. And I certainly didn't look like this back then. But like I look normal. Well, I wouldn't say like, yeah, I don't look normal now, but like you know what I mean, right? Like a supposed normal weight, according to certain people that say they're so important. But like anyway, back to the whole, anyway, we were in the midst of it all. I was talking to my dad on the phone, and I said, oh my God, I'm becoming schizophrenic or something. I think I'm going nuts. And he said, no, you're not being schizophrenic. Why do you think you're schizophrenic? I have like, black moments, dark, depressing moments too. It always happens, and then it just like ends or whatever. But I didn't think mine would. I thought that either I was some sort of sick, disgusting exception, because I always felt like I was some sort of sick, disgusting exception. I didn't feel like I was normal, and that therefore normal things applied to me. Like I didn't think I was normal, and sometimes I still don't. But like at least I don't think I'm alone. Like now we're like nobody's ever gonna know even like that I exist, that and or that I'm like normal. Nobody's ever gonna know or anything. But um anyway, and then like in the midst of it all, my mom was trying to like complain to my dad, ask for money. He didn't have any. Then she was trying to like guilt and shame her sister who had paid for our plane tickets to give her money. And then like her daughter, who was 17 at the time, 2 years younger than I was, she was like saying don't help them, because like she felt probably justifiably using her sister. And and her sister decided not to help us, so, and that was understandable. But my mom like was trying to like brainwash me that her sister was being so selfish for not helping her. What about her guilting and shaming her into I don't know, giving her a free ride, whatever. I mean, yeah, they were more well off, but maybe, yeah, they did work for it. And yeah, I mean, it's not that she never tried or anything, but at the same time it's like why are you guilting and shaming someone just because they're your sister? That's not fair to her. Like that's not fair to her sister. And then like I kind of defended her once, like to my dad, when I shouldn't have. And I normally didn't even defend her like ever, but like I just like said, well, was just basically gossiping. And my dad just made this funny sound, like he thought that I was so brainwashed and so nuts and so hopeless case, whatever. Mm, for why didn't I know better than to think that, or to be parroting what she was saying, whatever. But anyway, but then like so then we were just my mom called a shelter, and then she was like so like disgusted that she had to, oh no, we're gonna have to sleep on the floor if we don't have more money to stay here at the hostel, and we don't. And but who cares? I didn't care. Like I just needed stimulation, that's all. I didn't care about anything else, and I needed to I was trying to like push away the sadness and everything, and my horoscope was telling me this stuff like that was so accurate about my mood and about my situation and everything, that I thought, and it was telling me that basically I was circling the drain, and like it was scaring me. And like it was like nuts. It was stupid and crazy. I mean, it wasn't stupid, but it was crazy, and it was like crazy accurate. It was scary. Like things like, oh, your self-control is preventing you from indulging in deep sadness. And then another one was the intertemporal reincarnation service will be checking your file. So whatever you do, like stay in line, whatever, and like be happy. Don't and don't let things get to you. But yet if you do let things get to you, you're you better let that get to you somehow, or else you're finished, and you're finished anyway. And it was just so depressing. And it was just so like anxiety inducing, but not anxiety so much as just depression and dread and fear. And it was like I was paranoid because I didn't want to die, and I thought, oh, maybe I'm dying or something. And then I'm just like, I mean, I didn't think I was physically dying, but I thought that like something in my brain was making me die or something. And I felt like nothing like organic, but more like just spiritual, where I would just die. Mm, and then I would drop dead. But like anyway, then and I felt like I was so paranoid that I kept the curtains closed in our room at the hostel, because I didn't want anyone shooting me, seeing me to shoot me, because I didn't want to die. That was the last thing I needed. Why take the chance? And that was a logical thing. But and then like I was like sleeping on the top bunk right in the window. So then I would put I would sleep with my head away from the window, so that if somebody shot through the window, because Edmonton was kind of like it was in like an area of Edmonton, not a bad area, but just like a area nonetheless that had people like that, but not with guns necessarily. But I don't know, I didn't know, I wasn't going to take the chance. And then I put like my bag full of stuff at the other end, so that if they shot, they would shoot through the bag and it wouldn't even get my feet, let alone my head. And then like so it was just like that. But like well, I was just like that. And then I mean, I tried to push away the depression, but it wasn't working. And I tried to God and Jesus and everything it all away, but that didn't work. And um yeah. And I felt like, am I even a good person? Because like why don't I believe? But then I feel like I wish I could believe, but I only want to believe if it's true and all that. But like, because I don't want to be delusional about it, and I want to like know what to do. So how can I not know how can I know what to do if I don't know what is real? But then But then like with our situation, I was like, okay, like her, sister finally did pay for us to have a place at the YMCA for a week, so we moved there. And like then I just kept pushing the depression away. Didn't tried not to, but tried to explain it, and then explain the depression like by writing it. I'm not the depression, but explain my like theory by writing it down. But I didn't have the words for it, and having the words for things was always a problem with me. Like, and I can't believe that they dropped the ball. Like, I've seen a lot of like shrinks between the ages of 19 and 36, which is now, but especially from like 19 to about like a few years ago, whatever. But like, um, and none of them, except for one that I had in 2018 or no 2016, mentioned anything about alexithymia, which is a real problem, and it's a real like actual existent issue where you don't know how to explain not just your mood, but you don't know how to explain what you're thinking, what you're feeling. So how can you get any support or any help or anything, any empathy even for anybody if you can't even explain what you're going through? So you end up going through it totally alone, and suffering in silence, all that, and it's not okay, it's not humane. And just because you appear okay, but then you're not, but you're not. A lot of the time you're not. And you feel like you're dying, but yet you appear okay, and that's or you appear like you don't even care even, and that's even worse because then they dehumanize you. But like, that just adds to like everything that's terrible. That just makes it worse, like infinitely worse. But anyway, like it's an issue that really exists, where you don't know how to explain yourself, and you don't have the words for it. And you may have the vocabulary to explain, and you may be talking to people and making perfect sense, but that doesn't mean you're saying what you actually have been dying to say, have been craving to say for years, for your whole life, have been like are trying to explain about whatever you're talking about. And it's like it's not okay. It's not a humane way to have to exist. And this is an issue that I like really had a lot of, and a lot of people think, well, yeah, but you communicate just fine, but I didn't. I mean, I may know how to explain myself now, but I didn't until a few years ago. It's like I found my voice at like 33 years old, and I found that pathetic at the time. I was all running myself down, saying I should have done this when I was 12. What's wrong with me? Am I stupid? What's wrong with me? But it's not that. But uh, and then like, so I didn't even know how to explain anything, like let alone anything spiritual, and I was confused about spirituality besides. So it was like a mental hell and everything, and already and I wasn't dead, but I felt like I was in hell, and it was like I felt like I would probably go there when I was dead. Besides, if there was and both because of my immorality or whatever, and because of just like my lack of belief or whatever, or just because I'm me, and I'm inherently wrong just by like existing, by being me. Like I didn't really believe in everybody's inherent worth, and that's a very wrong thing, and that's why I suffered, because I was dehumanizing myself and others by not believing it. But how could I have known when nobody else knew either? So how could they teach me? And but they might have handled it better, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they were going through worse. I mean, it depends on who. And but anyway, um like when but anyway, then like I didn't know how to explain it, and then like another, and then like I was like working at Tim Hortons for a few days, and then I quit because I felt like I was not good at it, and not able to concentrate on it because of all the stuff that was going on, both inside me and outside. And like, so I just didn't, I just quit before I could get fired, because I thought I was going to get fired for being so bad at it. They wouldn't have fired me because there were people doing it worse, but and like they stayed on and gave it a try more than I did. But like I didn't know. I thought I was gonna get fired. I thought people were gonna be more judgmental than they were. Like, so like I just quit before anybody would have the chance to fire me, because I didn't want to go through the humiliation of being fired, or risk going through the humiliation of being fired. So I quit. I didn't even want to go and collect my check because I felt like I didn't deserve it, and people were like trying to convince me to go and collect it. And finally they did convince me, and then my mom came with me, and a neighbor of ours that we had met and talked to came with us about it. And that, but like once, like and then another time the next day, like I went to get it. But like mm, but and then like I was just telling the story of oh, I want to, like, I need a job, I need another job, I need to make money, I need to, and I was just really, like, stressed and depressed and everything. And I was just telling this new guy that had just arrived there, that had just um that was going to uh this new guy that was that was going to live there for a while, and he was just passing through, just having fun, going through Canada. He lived in Canada, but he was going through it just for fun and everything. And he was just passing through, traveling, having fun. He was in his, like, 30s, 40s, and late 30s, whatever. And I mean, he lied, I think, about his age. I think he said he was 37, but I think he was in his 40s. But anyway, his name, was, I'll name him Fred, because I don't know if, like, he would, I don't think he would mind, me mentioning his real name. But, like, I mean, he's dead now, but, like, still, I don't want to, just in case he would. And, and other people might give me shit besides, and I don't need that. So, so I'm just gonna name him Fred for the. And he was a writer, and he had had a few things published, but wasn't, well known or anything, but thought he was. He was bipolar. And he, basically convinced me to, we were talking, and then he called me high strung, but I felt like I was the opposite. Like, I wasn't high strung enough. Like, how, like, I need to get stimulation. I need to do, like, be a lot more high strung in order to get stimulation. I mean, it was to the point where I was losing weight. I was so, like, not active, but yet, active enough in all the nervous energy where I was losing weight even. And that was a good thing, because I needed to. But, like, um, but, like, anyway, he, convinced me to take something for it. And at first I was like, no, but what if it makes me complacent? And he said, and I said, what would happen if I, if the, city center mall across the street blew up? Like, what would I do if I was on, like, something? And he's like, well, I'm sure that I would act very appropriately, blah blah blah. But, like, what would you? I asked him, what would you do if, went on that stuff? And he said, I'm sure I would act very appropriately. And okay, fine, but that's what they all say. But and I was kept skeptical of it. And he said that, my worrying about disaster was a disease, but I was thinking, how can, and I'm still thinking, how can survival instinct, or just healthy, wanting to survive and wanting to, like, think of, like, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, how can that be a disease? But at the same time, it was like, what kind of a life is that, if you're not even, what kind of quality of life do you have if you're constantly worrying about disasters and that? And or if you I mean, if you enjoy it, that's one thing, but I wasn't always enjoying it. I mean, I just wanted to enjoy life and not have to worry about stuff like that all the time, and worry. But I just didn't really believe in much after life. I believed in some, but not a lot. So I thought that I would have to live now, and then never after, and therefore I would have to, make sure I didn't die for a long time, and therefore I would have to be very attentive of disasters. And it was just one thing after another with that. But I mean, in my head, but um, anyway, this guy, convinced me to take, like, antidepressants. And he was on Paxil himself, and he was talking to me about it, and, saying he was bipolar, he was on Paxil, he had social anxiety, which I also had, and he convinced me to, make an appointment at the University of Alberta Hospital to see a psychologist and a psychiatrist, which I did. And, and there was different kinds of worms, like, about, stuff like that, and stuff related and stuff not so related, but kind of related. But mostly it was just, okay, I was put on Celexa, an antidepressant. I was put on, like, 20 milligrams of Celexa, and, like, I mean, that was a miracle, because I had terrible, terrible social anxiety, and that just took it away overnight. Like, literally. Like, it made me giddy, and that's a, side effect when you first start taking it, but, which it does to a lot of people like that. But, and it also took away my social anxiety. There was no social anxiety after that. It went from, I was crippled by it, but for years and years, to there was none. And depression it helped with, but not as much as it needed to. And I saw a psychologist, and he was, like, really good. His name, I'm gonna give his real name here, Scott Duncan. And he's just a really good guy. And I don't know, like, I think he's still there, and I think he's still, like, doing lectures there. I think he's still, like, I don't know if he's still, like, people's psychologist there, but he's doing lectures there. He's a professor in that. And he'd been a psychologist back then for, like, 20 years, and he wasn't old. He was, like, in his 40s, and he had been, like, I mean, he had been a psychologist for longer than I'd been alive, though, like, for, like, 20 years. And he was, like, he was helpful. He was really empathetic. He was really, like, he gave me some insight into, like, how to cope with things, and what was going on here. and like empathy for me, where he was, empathizing with my situation, and like, he came to conclusions about like, my situation with certain people that, I was hoping people would come to without, me having to tell them. So I knew that he actually meant it and actually was feeling that way, about, what was going on, and that I wasn't crazy for feeling it myself. And he said, that I wasn't crazy. He'd, been a psychologist for 20 years, and I wasn't nuts. I wasn't psychotic. I was depressed and all that. And that was a good thing. But now back to the YMCA. And um, it was, maybe I should do a different video for the YMCA, because this has gone on for long enough, and I don't want it to be like a 5-hour video all one, So maybe I'll call this one, like, what led me to the YMCA, and I'll call the other one what it was like at the YMCA. That's what I'll do. So I'm gonna, like, so that was what led me to the YMCA, and now, like, what it was like at the YMCA. I'm gonna do a different a different video, and because this one has gone on for so long about what led me to the YMCA that um I don't know. It's just like not, ever getting to what it was like there. So I need to start a new one about that, and I'm gonna put this one as a different title, like what led me there. Okay, so I'll be back in a bit.